Well guys, we're finally in the home stretch. Less than 1 month until the Switch 2 finally releases and ushers in a new era of Nintendo gaming. And while it won't be ready immediately at launch, just a month later we'll have what looks to be one of the pillars of this new era of gaming when Donkey Kong Bananza releases on July 17th. Like many others, I am super excited for Donkey Kong's big return to the spotlight, but I think it's worth pointing out that this is a game that Nintendo simply has to knock out of the park. So in today's video, I want to talk about the vast potential of this game and also explain why there is so much riding on DK's big adventure. Before I get into all that though, as usual, thanks for clicking on my video. If you enjoy my content, please be sure to give this video a like and hit that subscribe button down in the corner. Each and every like and sub helps out a ton, and I hugely appreciate any and all help on growing my channel. Now with all that out of the way, let's talk about Donkey Kong. Let's start this conversation off by talking about just how much fun this game looks. Bananza's world looks every bit as charming and colorful as you would expect from a marquee Nintendo release, and giving the player the ability to literally break that world apart piece by piece is an ingenious idea that fits the Donkey Kong character perfectly. Wreaking havoc and destroying things is one of the simplest, most fundamental reasons why video games are such a fun medium, and having a 3D Nintendo platformer entirely based around this concept is something that I didn't know just how much I wanted until I saw that trailer. Even looking beyond the core destruction mechanic, this game simply looks fantastic. Like I said, the color and charm of the world absolutely jumps off the screen. The environments look vast, the characters look full of life, and the world in general looks like it's begging to be explored. The movement of Donkey Kong looks to be fast and fluid, and more than anything, the trailer just screams fun. Exactly what Nintendo does best. Nintendo is notoriously weird about saying which teams develop which games, but it's widely thought that this game is being developed by the Super Mario Odyssey team, and anyone who watched the trailer could probably guess that. The similarities and inspiration that this game seems to be taking from Odyssey is pretty obvious. Super Mario Odyssey is one of the best games in the entire Nintendo Switch library, if not one of the greatest games of all time, so just knowing that the same people are behind Donkey Kong Bananza, well, it basically guarantees that this is at the very least going to be a very, very good title and an absolute blast to play. But knowing that the Odyssey team is behind this game is also a bit of a double-edged sword. If for some reason this game fails to live up to expectations, well, it's just going to make the wait for the next 3D Mario adventure even more excruciating. Super Mario Odyssey released all the way back in 2017, and you would think after 8 years we would be due for some sort of follow-up. But if the team has mostly been busy with this DK game, then the next 3D Mario platformer might still be years away. That's why it's essential that Donkey Kong Bananza is a home run. If this is a replacement for a 3D Mario game, then it better be damn good. Beyond that though, I think there's actually a bigger reason why Nintendo has so much riding on Donkey Kong's burly shoulders here. I honestly think that Donkey Kong Bananza is the most important game in the Switch 2's launch window. Obviously the biggest game is going to be Mario Kart World. That one is actually coming out on launch day, bundled with the system in some cases, and will probably sell 4 to 5 times more than DK Bananza over the course of the Switch 2's life. But it's also a Mario Kart game that, despite being far more ambitious than anything the series has ever done, is still going to feel pretty familiar at its core. Sure, the open world and dynamic weather effects will be impressive, but it doesn't really have the potential to be a system showcase the way that Donkey Kong Bananza does. Running around a giant 3D space, completely destroying the world around you, seems like something that the Switch 1 simply would not be able to handle, and that's why this game is set up to be the perfect demonstration of just how much of an upgrade the Switch 2 is over its predecessor. But to be honest, that has me a little bit nervous. Like I said, my hype level for this game went through the roof after that reveal trailer, so I watched quite a bit of the ensuing previews that went live in the weeks after, and unfortunately, they're a bit mixed in some regards. While the overwhelming sentiment is that the game is a lot of fun to play, I've heard more than one person mention frame rate and camera issues, and that has me concerned. Obviously, camera problems can be the death knell of any 3D platformer, so while hearing that sort of thing isn't ideal, I have a hard time believing that the Odyssey team is going to release a 3D platformer with significant camera issues, so I'm not too worried about that. That's something I'll have to see for myself when I get my hands on the game, but overall, I don't foresee that being a huge issue. The frame rate concern, on the other hand, is a bit more troubling. It goes without saying that the biggest blemish on the OG Switch's life was its performance problems, and that became more and more apparent as the hardware aged. By now, most of us are used to Nintendo consoles not being powerhouses. We basically accepted the fact that third-party titles aren't always going to run the best on Nintendo hardware, but for ages we've always been able to at least bank on the fact that first-party Nintendo titles will run and look great on Nintendo hardware. But towards the end of the Switch's life, even this wasn't the case. Even if we put aside the ghastly performance issues of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and chalk that up as its own separate issue, first-party staples like The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom and Mario & Luigi Brothership had significant frame rate issues when they released last year. Issues like this, that in the past had been exceedingly rare for Nintendo titles, had us clamoring for a Switch upgrade more than ever, and that's why it would be such a bummer if Donkey Kong Bananza came out and suffered from the same problems. Donkey Kong Bananza has the opportunity to be the Switch 2's arrival moment. It needs to say that the Switch 2 is here, and it's bigger, better, and way more powerful than anything Nintendo has ever released in the past. And to its credit, it's certainly setting itself up for that opportunity and swinging for the fences here. The destruction mechanics and physics that it looks to be offering would truly be some of the most impressive tech we've ever seen in a Nintendo game. But the luster is going to be dulled just a little bit if the game suffers from significant frame drops and stutters like we saw so often in the Switch 1's lifetime. But I'm choosing to be optimistic. I still think there's a good chance that most of these issues are ironed out when the game releases, and if Donkey Kong Bananza launches with just an acceptable level of polish, then I think this game has the potential to be an all-timer. Only time will tell, but luckily, we don't have too long to wait. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you excited for the Switch 2 and Donkey Kong Bananza? Do you have your Switch 2 pre-order secured? And which games are you most excited to dive into when the Switch 2 finally arrives? And of course, as always, thanks for watching my video. See you on the next one.